My name is Claire, and at 32 years old, I never expected to be a widow, let alone the villain in my own family tragedy. 3 days ago, I buried Adam, my husband of 5 years. He was a brilliant corporate lawyer who built his life on logic and facts, but he died suddenly, leaving a void that felt impossible to fill. I barely had the strength to stand up this morning, yet here I was dragging myself to my nephew Leo's first birthday party because my mother insisted family comes first. I stood in the corner of my parents' backyard in suburban Connecticut, holding a wrapped gift, while my sister Jessica held court by the cake table. She tapped a spoon against a champagne glass, silencing the music. I thought she was going to thank everyone for coming. Instead, she looked directly at me with a smile that did not reach her eyes and dropped a bomb that shattered my entire reality. "Leo is not David's son," she announced, her voice amplified by the microphone. "He is Adam's son. My late husband wanted to leave a legacy, and since Claire could not give him one, he turned to me. As his only heir, Leo is entitled to half of Claire's $500,000 house and $200,000 in cash." She held up a crumpled piece of paper, waving it like a victory flag. I said, "Oh, I see," and tried to hold back my laughter. Because my husband had a secret one that Jessica and my parents never knew about. A secret that was sitting in a safety deposit box, waiting for the right moment to destroy them all. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe if you have ever had to smile while your world burned down around you. The silence in the backyard was absolute. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like the air before a tornado touches down. I looked around the garden, seeing the frozen faces of neighbors, family friends, and my parents' business associates. Then my eyes landed on David, my brother-in-law. David is a good man, hardworking and kind, a master electrician who works double shifts to fund Jessica's lifestyle. He was standing near the grill holding a plate of burgers, his dark skin ashen with shock. The plate slipped from his fingers and crashed onto the patio stones, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Jessica did not even flinch. She turned to her husband with a look of pure disdain. "Don't look so surprised, David," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "You know you are sterile. I have kept your secret for 2 years to protect your fragile ego, but Adam is gone now and I have to think about my son's future. Leo needs his rightful inheritance." It was a double-tap execution. In one breath, she had accused my dead husband of infidelity and emasculated her own husband in front of everyone he knew. I watched David crumble. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He just looked at the little boy sitting in the high chair covered in blue frosting, and then back at the woman he had devoted his life to. I felt a surge of nausea, but I forced myself to stay standing. I looked at my parents, Linda and Thomas, waiting for them to stop this insanity, to defend Adam's memory, to comfort David, to check on me. Instead, they rushed forward, flanking Jessica like bodyguards. My mother had tears in her eyes, but they were tears of joy. "Oh, Jessica, my brave girl," she sobbed loudly enough for the back row to hear. "We always suspected there was something special about Leo. He has Adam's eyes, doesn't he, Thomas?" My father nodded vigorously, patting Jessica on the back. "It is a blessing, Linda. A piece of Adam is still with us. This creates a complication, of course, but family is family. We must protect the bloodline." They turned to look at me then. 3 pairs of eyes united in a twisted front. I was the outsider now. The barren widow standing in the way of the golden child and the miracle heir. My mother's face hardened as she addressed me. "Claire, surely you understand what this means. You cannot keep that big house all to yourself. It is selfish. Adam would want his son to be raised in his home, not in that cramped apartment Jessica and David live in. You need to do the right thing." The audacity was breathtaking. They were evicting me from my own life before the dirt on Adam's grave had even settled. I looked at the crumpled paper in Jessica's hand. "Is that supposed to be a will?" I asked, my voice calm and steady, surprising even myself. Jessica smirked, and marched over to me, thrusting the document into my face. "Read it, and weep, sister." Adam signed this 3 days before he died. He came to see me. He told me he regretted marrying a cold career-obsessed woman who could not give him a family. He wanted Leo to have everything. I took the paper. It was a single sheet typed on standard printer paper, not legal stationery. The font was Comic Sans, which Adam despised, and the signature at the bottom was a shaky scrawl that looked like someone had traced it from a birthday card. I looked at it and felt a bubble of hysterical laughter rising in my throat. Adam was a senior partner at one of Boston's top law firms. He drafted ironclad contracts for Fortune 500 companies. The idea that he would draft a will on scrap paper using a childish font and sign it like a third grader was insulting to his memory. "That signature is terrible," I said, handing the paper back to her. "It looks nothing like his legal signature." "And Adam would never use Comic Sans, Jessica. If you are going to forge a document, at least put some effort into it." Jessica's face flushed a deep, ugly red. "How dare you?" she shrieked. "You are just jealous. You are a dry, bitter, barren tree, and you cannot stand that I gave Adam the one thing you never could." Before I could react, she threw the contents of her champagne glass at me. The sticky liquid splashed across the front of my black funeral dress, soaking into the fabric and chilling my skin. David suddenly stepped forward, his hands shaking. "Jessica, stop this. We are leaving. Leo is my son. You are lying." Jessica whirled on him, her eyes wild. "Shut up, you fool! Go to the car. Go sit in the car and wait like a good little dog. Do not ruin this for me." I watched my parents intervene, not to stop Jessica but to shush David. "David, please," my father said sternly. "Let the women handle this. This is about Adam's estate. You are not involved." Not involved. They were talking about the paternity of the child he had raised for a year. The cruelty was suffocating. I wiped the champagne from my face and straightened my spine. "I am leaving," I announced. "Do not contact me until you are ready to admit this is a lie." "You cannot run away from the law," Claire Jessica screamed after me as I turned toward the gate. "My lawyer will be in touch. That house belongs to Leo. Banish yourself to a condo where you belong." I walked out of the gate, my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. I could hear the murmur of the guests behind me, the judgment, the speculation. I knew exactly what narrative my family would spin the moment I was gone. That I was the greedy, childless widow trying to steal from an orphan. I saw David standing by his car in the driveway, his head in his hands, sobbing quietly. I wanted to stop to tell him what I knew, but I couldn't. Not yet. Not when I was covered in champagne and shaking with rage. I needed my armor. I needed Adam's armor. I got into my car and locked the doors, taking deep breaths to steady my hands. I drove home on autopilot, my mind racing. They wanted a war. They wanted my house, my assets, and my dignity. They thought I was weak because I had spent my life trying to please them, trying to buy their affection with obedience. But they had forgotten who I married. They had forgotten that for 5 years I lived with a man who strategized for a living. Adam had warned me. He had told me late one night that Jessica was a scorpion who would sting the moment she felt threatened. I just never realized my parents would be the ones handing her the poison. I pulled into my driveway, the Victorian home Adam and I had restored lovingly over the last 5 years, rising before me. It was our sanctuary. And now they wanted to turn it into a trophy for Jessica. I pressed the garage opener, but before the door could rise, I saw a movement in my rearview mirror. A car pulled up sharply behind me, blocking me in. It was my parents' SUV. Jessica hopped out of the passenger seat, followed by my mother and father. They had taken the shortcut through the back roads to beat me here. They were on my porch before I could even turn off the engine. I stepped out of the car, my keys clenched in my hand like a weapon. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my voice echoing in the quiet cul-de-sac. "Get off my property." My mother stepped forward, her face twisted into a mask of self-righteous fury. "We are here to inspect the assets," she declared loudly, pointing a finger at my front door. "You are not going inside to hide valuables, Claire. That furniture, that art, the jewelry Adam gave you, it all belongs to the estate now. It belongs to Leo. We are doing an inventory. You are insane, I said, backing up toward the front door, trying to block their path. You are not coming in. I will call the police. Call them, Jessica taunted, stepping up beside our mother. Tell them you are denying access to the legal guardian of the heir. See who they believe, the grieving widow or the mother of the deceased's son. She pulled a locksmith's card from her pocket. Dad, call this guy. Tell him we lost the keys. We are getting into this house tonight. My father actually pulled out his phone. I watched in horror as he began to dial. This was a home invasion. My own family was trying to break into my house in broad daylight. Neighbors were starting to come out onto their porches, drawn by the shouting. Mrs. Gable from next door stood by her hedges, looking concerned. Mom, please stop, I said, my voice cracking. People are watching. Let them watch. My mother screamed, turning to face the neighbors. Let them see what kind of monster you are. Denying your own nephew a roof over his head. You want to keep everything for yourself while your sister struggles. You selfish, ungrateful witch. I realized then that there was no reasoning with them. The mask had fallen off completely. They were not driven by grief or love for a grandchild. They were driven by greed, pure and unfettered. They saw Adam's death not as a tragedy, but as a payday. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. I watched them as I spoke to the operator describing the intruders. Jessica laughed when she realized what I was doing. Go ahead, she yelled. The police cannot stop a civil dispute. We have rights. When the patrol car turned the corner, sirens flashing, my father finally hung up the phone. He looked at me with a disappointment so profound it felt like a physical blow. You called the cops on your parents, Claire, he said, shaking his head. You have really crossed the line this time. The officers stepped out, assessing the scene. Two older people, a young woman and a woman covered in dried champagne, standing defensively by the door. This is a private family matter, officer, my father said, using his best country club voice. We are just trying to help our daughter sort through her late husband's effects. She is hysterical with grief. That is not true, I said, stepping forward. These people do not live here. They are trespassing. I want them removed from my property. The officer looked at the deed transfer Jessica was waving around the fake will. Ma'am, this looks like a civil issue regarding an estate, he said to Jessica. Until a judge validates this document, the residence belongs to the wife. You need to leave. Jessica's face contorted. You are going to regret this, Claire, she hissed, leaning in close so the officer could not hear. Tomorrow morning, my lawyer is filing an emergency injunction. We will freeze your bank accounts. We will lock you out of this house. You will be on the street with nothing, just like you deserve. My mother grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. Give your sister the keys, Claire. Stop this madness. Adam would be ashamed of you. Do not say his name, I whispered, pulling my arm away. Get out. All of you. They retreated to their SUV, casting hateful glances over their shoulders. As they drove away, Jessica rolled down the window and shouted, You will pay for this. I stood on my porch, shaking uncontrollably as the police officer took a statement. He advised me to get a restraining order, but I knew a piece of paper would not stop them. They smelled money and they were hungry. I went inside and locked the door, engaging the deadbolt and the security chain. I leaned against the wood, sliding down until I hit the floor. The house was silent. The empty space where Adam used to be felt vast and terrifying. But as the adrenaline faded, a cold clarity took its place. They thought I was weak. They thought I was just the quiet girl who arranged throw pillows and picked out paint colors. They did not know about the late-night conversations Adam and I had. They did not know about the precautions he took because he knew exactly who they were. I stood up and walked to the kitchen. I poured a glass of water, my hands steadying. I walked to the home office, Adam's sanctuary. I sat in his leather chair, which still smelled faintly of his cologne, cedar, and old paper. The heavy steel door of the bank vault clicked open with a sound that reverberated through the silent room like a gavel striking a judge's bench. I walked in my heels echoing on the polished floor, the only sound in the oppressive quiet. The bank manager, Mr. Henderson, gave me a sympathetic nod before retreating, leaving me alone with row upon row of metal boxes. Each one held secrets, but mine, box number 402, held a weapon. I inserted the key, my hand trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the sheer weight of what I was about to do. I turned it, and the lock yielded. I pulled the long metal drawer out and carried it to the small private viewing table in the corner. Under the harsh fluorescent light, the box looked innocuous, just a cold gray container. But I knew better. Adam had been meticulous. He was a man who believed in preparation, who saw the world as a chessboard where every move had a countermove. I lifted the lid. Inside sat a single object, a deep blue velvet box, the kind you might keep expensive jewelry in. But this wasn't for pearls or diamonds. This was for something far more valuable. This was for the truth. I remembered the night Adam gave me the key. It was 2 years ago, a humid August evening. We were sitting on our back porch watching fireflies dance in the twilight. He had been quiet all evening, his brow furrowed in that way it did when he was working through a complex legal case. Suddenly he turned to me, his blue eyes serious. "Claire," he said, his voice low and urgent, "I need you to promise me something. If anything ever happens to me, if I'm not here to protect you, you go to the bank. You open box 402. Inside is a blue box. You open it only then, not before." I had laughed it off at the time, teasing him about being dramatic. But he hadn't smiled. He had gripped my hand tightly. "Your sister Jessica. She's not who you think she is, Claire. She's a viper. A poisonous snake waiting in the grass. And if I'm gone, she will strike. You need to be ready." I opened the blue velvet box. Inside there were no jewels, just a thick envelope sealed with red wax stamped with Adam's initials. I broke the seal, the wax crumbling under my fingers like dried blood. I pulled out the contents. The first document was a medical file. The letterhead was from the prestigious Massachusetts General Hospital Department of Urology. I scanned the pages, my eyes catching on the key phrases. Patient Adam Preston. Procedure vasectomy. Date October 12, 2019. 5 years ago. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. 5 years ago. 3 full years before Leo was even conceived. The document detailed everything. The reason for the procedure, a rare genetic marker Adam carried that caused a debilitating neurodegenerative disease in 50% of male offspring. He had never told me the specifics, only that we couldn't have children naturally. He had borne that burden alone to spare me the pain of knowing the grim genetic lottery we faced. But here it was in black and white. He had made sure. He had taken the step to ensure no child of his would ever suffer. And in doing so, he had unwittingly created the perfect alibi. Leo could not be Adam's son. It was biologically impossible. The timeline didn't just not match, it was in a different universe. Jessica's entire claim, her entire foundation of lies, crumbled into dust with this one piece of paper. She had built a castle on a swamp, and Adam had left me the dynamite to blow it up. I turned the page. The next document was a sperm analysis report dated 6 months after the surgery. Diagnosis: azoospermia. 0 sperm count. Confirmed, verified, indisputable. I felt a fierce surge of love for my husband. Even from the grave, he was protecting me. He had known. He had suspected that one day someone might try to use his legacy against me, and he had armed me with the ultimate shield: science. Facts. The unassailable truth. But there was more. Beneath the medical records was a second smaller envelope. This one was labeled Jessica. I opened it, and a stack of printed screenshots slid out onto the table. My stomach turned as I began to read. They were text messages, hundreds of them, from Jessica to Adam. The dates went back 4 years. "Hey, handsome, just thinking about you. Claire doesn't deserve you, you know. I'm at the bar alone. Come have a drink, I promise I won't bite. Hard. I need 5,000, Adam. Credit card bill is due. If you don't help me, I might just have to tell Claire about that time you looked at me a little too long. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. It was a chronicle of harassment, a relentless campaign of seduction and extortion. Jessica hadn't just been jealous, she had been predatory. She had sent him photos I couldn't bear to look at, closely inappropriate, suggestive photos, trying to lure him in. And Adam's responses. They were short, professional, and cold. "Stop contacting me, Jessica. I love my wife. Do not message me again. If you ask for money one more time, I will file a police report for harassment." He had never given in. Not once. He had never wavered. He had simply documented every single attempt, every threat, every twisted game she played. He had built a dossier of her character, a paper trail of her instability and greed. Why hadn't he told me? The question burned in my throat, but as I looked at his final reply to her, I understood. "I won't destroy Claire's family unless you force my hand. But be warned, Jessica, I am keeping everything. If you ever try to hurt her, these will be the first things the world sees." He had spared me. He knew how much family meant to me, how desperately I wanted to believe the best in them. He had carried the weight of her betrayal alone, shielding me from the ugly truth of my own sister's nature. He had been a fortress standing between me and the storm I didn't even know was raging. I gathered the papers, my heart hardening with every second. The medical records proved Leo wasn't his. The texts proved Jessica was a liar and a manipulator. Together they painted a picture of a woman who had been plotting and scheming for years, waiting for a moment of weakness. And she thought she had found it in his death. She thought with Adam gone there would be no one to contradict her lies, no one to say, "No, I didn't sleep with you," no one to say, "I can't have children." She thought she was safe. She was wrong. I put the documents back into the envelope. I placed the envelope back into the blue box, and I closed the steel drawer of the safety deposit box with a finality that felt like closing the lid on a coffin. Not Adam's coffin, Jessica's. I walked out of the vault, the cool air of the bank hitting my face. The sun was shining outside, a bright, cheerful day that felt at odds with the cold fury burning in my chest. I had walked in a grieving widow, confused and hurt. I was walking out a prosecutor armed with the evidence to convict. I got into my car and sat for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. I could go to my parents right now. I could throw these papers in their faces, scream the truth until they begged for forgiveness. I could go to Jessica and watch her face crumble as her lies evaporated. But no, that was too easy. That was too quick. Adam hadn't just left me evidence. He had left me a strategy. He had played the long game, and now so would I. Jessica wanted a spectacle. She wanted to make a scene at a birthday party to humiliate me in front of everyone. Fine. I would give her a spectacle. I would give her a scene she would never forget. I started the engine. The first stop was the copy shop. I needed duplicates, triplicates. I needed digital scans stored in the cloud on thumb drives sent to my lawyer. I wasn't taking any chances. These papers were more valuable than gold. As I drove, I thought about David. Poor, deceived David. Jessica had used him just as she had tried to use Adam. She had emasculated him, lied to him about his own child, twisted his reality, until he didn't know up from down. He was a victim in this too. And he was the key. Adam's evidence destroyed Jessica's claim to the estate. But David? David could destroy her life. If I could show him the truth, if I could prove to him that he wasn't broken, that his wife was the one who was defective, I would have an ally inside the enemy camp. I pulled into the parking lot of the copy center. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother. "Claire, stop being stubborn. We are coming over to catalog the furniture at 2 p.m. Don't lock us out again." I stared at the message. Catalog the furniture. They were already dividing up the spoils, picking over the carcass of my life before the body was even cold. I didn't reply. Instead, I typed a new message to a number I hadn't used in years. "Detective Cole, I have a job for you. I need you to find out who Jessica owes money to, and I need it by tonight." I hit send. The game had officially begun. Adam had given me the sword. Now it was time to swing it. The neon sign above Mike's diner buzzed with an irritating hum, a sound that seemed to scratch against the inside of my skull. It was a place that smelled of stale coffee and grease, the kind of establishment where people went to be invisible. I parked my car around the block away from prying eyes and walked to the entrance, pulling my coat tighter against the chill. I was not here for the food. I was here to salvage a life and destroy a lie. I spotted David immediately. He was sitting in a booth at the far back, his large frame hunched over as if he were trying to collapse into himself. He wore his work uniform, a gray mechanic's shirt, with his name stitched over the pocket, but he looked nothing like the strong, proud man who had married my sister 3 years ago. He looked hollowed out. He was staring into a mug of black coffee, his hand shaking slightly as he lifted it. I slid into the booth across from him. He flinched, spilling hot coffee over his knuckles, but he didn't even hiss in pain. He just looked up at me, his dark eyes wide with panic. "Claire," he whispered, looking toward the door, as if he expected Jessica to burst through it with a whip. "You should not be here. Jessica said she would call the police if you came near me. She said you are unstable." I placed my hands flat on the sticky table. "I am not the unstable one, David, and I am not the one you need to be afraid of. Look at you. You are a ghost. What has she done to you?" David looked down, wiping the spilled coffee with a rough paper napkin. "She told me the truth, Claire. She finally told me the truth. I have been living a lie. Leo is not mine. I am not a father. I am just the man who pays the bills." His voice broke on the last word. It was the sound of a man whose very identity had been stripped away. I watched him and I felt a surge of pity so strong it almost knocked the wind out of me. Jessica had not just betrayed him, she had dismantled him. She had taken his masculinity, his fatherhood, and his pride and ground them into dust just to keep him compliant. "I am leaving," he said quietly. "I packed a bag this morning. I am going to stay with my brother in Philly. I cannot stay in that house looking at that boy knowing he belongs to your husband, knowing I could not give Jessica what she needed. I am ashamed, Claire. I am so ashamed." He started to slide out of the booth. I reached across the table and grabbed his wrist. My grip was iron. "Sit down, David. You are not going anywhere." He looked at me, surprised by my force. "Claire, please. Let me go. I have nothing left here." "You have a son," I said, my voice low and fierce. He shook his head, tears pooling in his eyes. "No, I do not. That is the point. He is Adam's son." Jessica showed me the will. She told me about the affair. "It makes sense, Claire. I know you do not want to believe it because you loved Adam, but it makes sense. We tried for a year. Nothing happened. Then she starts seeing Adam to talk about family problems and boom, she is pregnant." I leaned in closer. "David, listen to me very carefully. I need you to answer a question for me, and I need you to be honest. When you found out you were sterile, how did that happen?" David blinked, confused by the shift. "What?" "The diagnosis." I pressed. "Walk me through it. Did you go to Dr. Evans? Did you go to the fertility specialist at City General who gave you the news?" David looked away, his brow furrowing. It was 2 years ago. We had been trying for months. Jessica said we needed to get checked. She said she would make the appointments because I was working double shifts. And then I prompted. She went to the doctor first, he said. She came back and said she was fine. Perfect, actually, so it had to be me. She bought those collection cups. I did the sample at home in the bathroom. She took it in for me because I had to be at the site by 6 in the morning. I waited, letting him hear his own words. And then she came home that night crying. David said, his voice trembling, she had a letter. It was on medical stationery. It said I had a 0 sperm count, motility issues. It said that I was shooting blanks. She was so upset, Claire. She kept apologizing to me, saying it didn't matter, that she loved me anyway. But I saw how broken she was. I saw how much she wanted a baby. I sat back in the booth. "So you never spoke to a doctor? You never sat in an office and had a professional explain the results to you? You never went back for a second opinion. David looked defensive now. It was a letter from a clinic Claire. Why would I question it? Why would she lie about something like that? It broke her heart to tell me. She cried for days. She cried because she is an actress, David. I said, my voice hard. She cried because she was manipulating you. She played on your insecurity. She knew you wouldn't question her because you felt guilty. She made you feel like less of a man so she could be the hero who stayed with you despite your flaw. That is crazy, David whispered, but I saw the doubt flickering in his eyes. Why would she do that? Why would she fake a medical report? Control, I answered. Total, absolute control. If you think you are the problem, you will never leave her. You will work yourself to death to make it up to her. And when she suddenly gets pregnant, you don't ask questions. You just accept the miracle. You assume it is divine intervention or a fluke. You don't ask who the father is because you are just so grateful to be a dad. David put his head in his hands. But Adam, she said it was Adam. I reached into my purse. I did not pull out the papers yet. I needed him to get there on his own first. I needed him to want the truth. David, look at me. Adam had black hair. You have black hair. Leo has black hair. But look at his nose. Look at his chin. When he laughs, does he scrunch his nose up? David looked up, a faint smile touching his lips despite the pain. Yeah, he does. You do that, I said. I have watched you. When you are happy, you scrunch your nose. Adam never did that. Adam had blue eyes, David. Leo has brown eyes. Just like you. That doesn't mean anything, David said, but his voice was weaker. Genetics are complicated. Not this complicated, I said. I am going to tell you something, David, and you need to listen because it is going to save your life. Adam did not sleep with Jessica. Adam despised Jessica. He thought she was a predator, and he proved it. I pulled the manila envelope from my bag. I slid the single sheet of paper across the table. It was the copy of the vasectomy report. Read the date. David. He picked up the paper. His eyes scanned the medical jargon, the hospital logo, and then landed on the date. He read it once. Then he read it again. He looked up at me, his face draining of all color. This says Adam had surgery 5 years ago. Yes, I said. A vasectomy. Adam could not have children, David. He made sure of it. He did it to protect our future children from a genetic disease. He did it 3 years before Leo was born. David dropped the paper. His breath was coming in short, shallow gasps. If Adam couldn't, if he was sterile, then he isn't the father, I finished. And if Adam isn't the father and Jessica lied about your fertility test, then who is the father? David. David looked at me, and for the first time I saw the realization hit him like a physical blow. The pieces of the puzzle slammed together. The lack of doctor visits, the emotional manipulation, the timing, the resemblance. It's me, he whispered. Leo is mine. He is yours, I confirmed. She stole your son from you, David. Not by taking him away, but by making you believe he belonged to a dead man. She let you raise him, change his diapers, feed him all while letting you believe you were an imposter in your own home. She let you think you were living on charity when you were the rightful father all along. A low sound escaped David's throat, a growl of pure animal rage. He gripped the edge of the table so hard his knuckles turned white. She lied. She looked me in the face every single day and lied. She let me cry on her shoulder about not being a real dad, and she laughed at me behind my back. She is laughing at both of us, David, I said, fueling his anger because I needed that fire. She thinks we are stupid. She thinks I am a weak widow who will roll over and give her my house. She thinks you are a gullible fool who will walk away and let her cash in on a lie. She is planning to take your son, take my money, and live like a queen while you disappear to Philadelphia. David stood up. His chair scraped loudly against the floor, turning heads in the diner. I am going home. I am going to make her tell me the truth. I grabbed his arm again, pulling him down. No. You are not going home to scream at her. If you do that, she will deny it. She will say I forged this document. She will say you are crazy. She will take Leo and run, and you will never see your son again. Do you want that? He stared at me, his chest heaving. Then what do? I want to tear her apart. You will, I promised, but not with your fists. We are going to tear her apart with the truth. And we are going to do it when she feels safest. We are going to do it when she thinks she has won. I reached into my bag again. This time I pulled out a small rectangular box. It was a DNA test kit, bought from the pharmacy an hour ago. Take this, I said, sliding it toward him. Go home. Act like you are defeated. Act like you are the broken man she wants you to be. Apologize to her for almost ruining her plan. Tell her you understand why she did what she did with Adam. Tell her you just want to be in Leo's life even if you aren't his father. David looked at the box, revolted. You want me to lie to her? I want you to survive her, I said. You go home. You wait until she is in the shower or on the phone. You swab Leo's cheek. You put it in the vial and you hide it in your toolbox. Bring it to me tonight. Tonight, yes. Tonight is the grand finale, David. You are going to tell Jessica that I called. Tell her I am broken. Tell her I want to sign the papers. Tell her to bring my parents and the lawyer to my house at 7 o'clock. Tell her I am giving her the house. David looked at me, confusion warring with his fury. You are giving her the house, I am giving her a prison cell, I said, coldness seeping into my voice. But I need you to get her there. I need her to walk into my house thinking she is the smartest person in the room. And then when she is holding the pen, when she is gloating in front of my parents, I need you to stand up. I need you to look her in the eye and tell her you know. David took a deep breath. He picked up the DNA kit. His hand was steady now. The trembling had stopped. He looked at the vasectomy record one last time, then looked at me. She stole 3 years of my life, he said, his voice flat and deadly. She stole my pride. She made me feel like half a man. And tonight I said, you take it back, all of it. He nodded. He stood up and tucked the box into his jacket pocket. He threw a $20 bill on the table for the coffee he hadn't touched. I will get the sample, he said. I will get her to your house. And Claire. Yes, don't let her up for air. When you go after her, don't stop. I won't, I said. I promise. He walked out of the diner into the blinding afternoon sun. He walked differently now. His shoulders were back, his head was up. He wasn't the broken man who had walked in. He was a father on a mission. And God help Jessica when he got home. I sat in the booth for a moment longer, sipping my cold coffee. I felt a strange calm settle over me. The pieces were moving, the trap was set. Jessica thought she was playing a game with a grieving widow and a foolish husband. She didn't realize she was playing against Adam's memory and a father's rage. I checked my watch. 5 hours until showtime. I picked up my phone and dialed the number for the private investigator. Mr. Kowalski, I said. It's Claire. I need you to be at my house at 6:30. And bring the audio equipment. We are going to need a record of this. I paid the bill and walked out to my car. As I drove back toward the house that Jessica wanted so badly, I allowed myself a small, cold smile. She wanted an inheritance. I was going to give her one. I was going to give her exactly what she deserved. I thought the silence after David left the diner meant I had won a temporary ceasefire, but I was wrong. The war had just moved to a battlefield I hadn't anticipated. It started with a single notification on my phone, a vibration that buzzed against the mahogany desk in my home office. Then another, then 10. Within a minute, my phone was vibrating so constantly it was dancing across the wood surface. I picked it up, expecting texts from David, or perhaps my mother. Instead, I saw a barrage of Instagram notifications and TikTok tags. My stomach dropped. I opened the app, and there was Jessica's face filling my screen. She wasn't wearing the designer clothes she had flaunted at the party. She was wearing an old, oversized sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, no makeup to hide the dark circles under her eyes. She looked small, vulnerable, and devastated. It was a masterclass in performance art. "Hi everyone," she whispered into the camera, wiping away a tear. "I do not usually do this. I like to keep my private life private. But I have nowhere else to turn. I am a single mom. My son Leo lost his father recently. And now my own sister is trying to take away the only thing his father left him." I watched in horror as the video cut to a picture of Leo looking adorable and sad. Then back to Jessica. "My sister Claire, she is wealthy. She has a huge house in Beacon Hill, a successful design business, everything money can buy. But she does not have children. And because she is jealous, she is refusing to honor my late husband's will. She is kicking me and my baby out on the street. She wants to keep a 5-bedroom house all to herself while her nephew starves. Please, if anyone knows a pro bono lawyer who can fight a millionaire, help us. We just want what is fair." The caption read, "Justice for Leo Evil Sister." The video had been posted 2 hours ago. It already had 3 million views. I scrolled to the comments. They were a cesspool of vitriol. "This sister is a monster. Find out where she lives. Boycott her business. Someone should teach her a lesson." My hands shook as I read them. Jessica had weaponized the internet. She had taken a complex legal and biological truth, stripped it of all context, and painted me as a Disney villain. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew the internet didn't care about facts. They cared about feelings. And she was serving them a tragedy on a silver platter. My office phone rang. It was my assistant, Sarah. Her voice was panicked. "Claire, our website is crashing. We are getting thousands of emails. People are leaving 1-star reviews on Google calling you a child abuser. And Mrs. Wellington just called. She wants to cancel the Beacon Hill renovation project. She said she does not want to be associated with the drama." Mrs. Wellington was my biggest client. That contract was worth 6 figures. It was the backbone of my fiscal year. Tell her I will explain everything I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Tell her it is a misunderstanding. She does not want to talk, Claire. She said she saw the video. She said it is disgusting. I hung up the phone and felt the walls closing in. Jessica wasn't just coming for the house anymore. She was scorching the earth. She was destroying my reputation, my livelihood, my safety. She wanted me broken, so I would have no choice but to sign the check just to make it stop. I walked to the window and peered through the blinds. A car slowed down in front of the house, the driver holding up a phone to record video. Doxing. She had leaked my address. Fear, cold and sharp, spiked in my chest. But then I looked at the photo of Adam on my desk. He looked calm, confident. He had faced down corporate giants and hostile witnesses. He had never blinked. "I am not going to blink either," I said to the empty room. I closed the blinds, I turned off my phone notifications, and I called Detective Cole. He arrived an hour later, entering through the back alley gate to avoid the prying eyes out front. Detective Cole was a man who looked like he was carved out of granite. He wore a cheap suit and carried a battered leather satchel, but his eyes were sharp intelligence burning behind wire-rimmed glasses. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I saw the video," he said, sitting down at my kitchen table. "She is good. I will give her that. She plays the victim like she was born for it." "She is destroying my business," I said, pouring him a coffee. "She is ruining my life." "That is the point," Cole said, taking a sip. "It is called a pressure campaign. She knows she cannot win in court. That will you showed me the fake one? It is laughable. A judge would throw it out in 5 minutes. So she is trying to win in the court of public opinion. She wants you to settle before it ever gets to a judge." "I am not settling," I said. "I am going to bury her." "What did you find?" Cole opened his satchel and pulled out a thick stack of papers. He looked at me, his expression grim. "You were right to hire me, Mrs. Preston. Your sister is not just a liar. She is in trouble. Deep trouble." He spread the papers out on the table. "This is Jessica's financial history for the last 5 years. It is a disaster. Maxed out credit cards taken out in her name, David's name, even her parents' names. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. He pointed to a highlighted section on a bank statement. See these withdrawals. $500 here, $1,000 there. Always cash. Always from ATMs near casinos or racetracks. But then they stop about 6 months ago, and that is when the deposits start. Deposits, I asked. Loans, Cole corrected. Not from banks, from private lenders. Loan sharks, I whispered. Exactly. She owes $80,000 to a man named Vinny Moretti. He runs an illegal sports betting operation out of a laundromat in Southie. And Vinny is not the kind of guy who sends late notices. He sends guys with baseball bats. I stared at the numbers. $80,000. That was why she was so desperate. That was why she needed the house. It wasn't greed. It was survival. She had gambled away her life and now she was trying to sell mine to save herself. She is terrified, Cole said. The interest is compounding every week. She is drowning, and she thinks your house is the life raft. But what about the lawyer, I asked. She said she has a lawyer. She brought him to the house when she tried to break in. Cole let out a short bark of laughter. Yeah, I looked into him. His name is Gavin Miller. He is not a lawyer. What? He is a paralegal who got disbarred 10 years ago for embezzlement. He never passed the bar exam again. He makes a living running scams on vulnerable women. He finds women who are angry at their exes or in debt, and he promises to get them big settlements for a fee. I looked at the photo Cole slid across the table. It was a surveillance shot taken 2 days ago. It showed Jessica and Gavin sitting in a car. They were kissing. My breath caught in my throat. They are together, Cole said. He is not her lawyer, Claire. He is her boyfriend. I felt a wave of nausea. She was cheating on David, the man who worked himself to the bone for her, the man she had humiliated and emasculated. She was betraying him with a con man who was helping her steal from her own sister. Does David know? I asked. No, Cole said. David is in the dark. He thinks Gavin is a high-powered attorney doing this on contingency because he believes in justice. He has no idea his wife is sleeping with the guy who is helping her ruin his life. This changes everything, I said, my mind racing. It connects the dots, the fake will, the urgency, the desperation. Gavin probably helped her forge the signature. He probably coached her on the video. He definitely did. Cole agreed. That script she read that hits all the emotional triggers. That is a professional grifter's work. They are a team. They are going to split the money. 40,000 for Vinny, 40,000 for Gavin, and Jessica gets to walk away clean. Except, she leaves David holding the bag, I realized. If she gets the house, she leaves David. She takes Leo and runs off with Gavin. Exactly, Cole said. David is the fall guy. When the fraud is discovered, and it would be eventually, Jessica would claim David forced her to do it. She would throw him under the bus to save herself. I looked at the photo of Jessica and Gavin kissing. It was disgusting. But it was also the final nail in her coffin. I have enough, I said. I have the medical records proving Adam isn't the father. I have the texts proving harassment. I have the gambling debts. I have the fake lawyer. And I have the adultery. You have a nuclear bomb, Cole said, gathering his papers. But you have to be careful when you detonate it. People like Vinny Moretti, if they find out they aren't getting paid, they get violent. And people like Gavin Miller, when they get cornered, they run. I am not going to corner them, I said. I am going to invite them to dinner. Cole raised an eyebrow. You are going through with the plan tonight, even with the mob involved. Especially with the mob involved, I said. Jessica is motivated by fear. I need to use that. I need her to believe she has won right up until the moment the handcuffs click. I picked up the photo of Jessica and Gavin. Can you get me a digital copy of this? I asked. Already sent to your email, Cole said, standing up. And I have the audio from the car, too. They talk about the forgery. They laugh about how stupid David is. It is all there. Good, I said. Tonight we play it for the audience. Cole paused at the door. One more thing, Mrs. Preston. I stationed a guy outside, just in case the internet crazies try anything, or in case Vinny gets impatient. You are safe. Thank you, I said. After he left, I went back to my computer. The hate mail was still pouring in. My business rating had dropped to 2 stars. My inbox was full of threats. But I didn't feel afraid anymore. I felt cold. I opened the video editing software on my laptop. I imported the surveillance photos, the medical records, and the audio clips. I started building a presentation. Jessica wanted a show. She wanted to tell a story to the world. Well, I was going to give her a plot twist she never saw coming. My phone rang. It was David. I did it. He whispered, his voice sounding tinny and far away. I got the swab. And I told her. What did she say? I asked. She is excited, David said, and his voice broke. She kissed me, Claire. She told me I was a good husband. She said once we get the house, everything will be perfect. She looked me in the eye and lied to me again. Hold on to that anger, David, I said. Do not let it go. Bring her tonight. Bring the lawyer. Bring my parents. 7 o'clock. I will be there, he said. And Claire. Yeah, I hope she rots. I hung up the phone. The stage was set. The players were moving into position. I spent the next few hours transforming my living room. I set up the projector, connecting it to my laptop. I arranged the chairs in a semicircle facing the screen like a private theater. I placed a single pen and the transfer deed document on the coffee table. It was the bait. At 6:45, I went upstairs and changed. I put on a white dress. Not a morning dress, a celebration dress. I applied red lipstick. I looked in the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't the grieving widow from the funeral. She was an avenging angel. I heard car doors slam outside. I walked to the window. My parents' SUV was there. And behind it, a flashy red convertible. Gavin's car. Jessica stepped out looking triumphant. She was wearing black as if she were the one in mourning. She linked arms with Gavin, who was wearing a suit that was too shiny. David got out of his truck slowly. He looked like a man walking to the gallows, but I saw his hand go to his pocket checking for the DNA sample. They walked up the path to my front door. I went downstairs, my heels clicking on the hardwood. I opened the door. Welcome, I said, stepping aside. Please come in. We have a lot to discuss. Jessica smirked at me as she breezed past. I'm glad you finally came to your senses, Claire. It is about time you did the right thing for family. I closed the door behind them and locked it. The trap was sprung. Family, I thought, following them into the living room. Yes, let's talk about family. Let's talk about exactly what you did to yours. The courier arrived at my design firm at 10 in the morning wearing a bored expression that contrasted sharply with the bomb he was delivering. He handed me a thick envelope marked urgent and legal. I signed for it, my hand steady despite the dread pooling in my stomach. I walked into my glass-walled office and slid a letter opener under the flap. It was a motion for an emergency injunction filed by Gavin Miller. The document demanded the immediate freezing of all my personal and business assets pending the resolution of the estate dispute. It claimed that I was a flight risk and that I was actively dissipating the estate's value to spite the rightful heir. It was a work of fiction, but it was dangerous fiction. If a judge signed this, my business accounts would be locked. I wouldn't be able to pay my staff, my vendors, or my rent. Jessica wasn't just coming for my house anymore. She was trying to strangle my livelihood. I looked through the glass walls of my office. My team was working diligently. Sarah was on the phone with a fabric supplier. Mark was drafting a layout for a new restaurant downtown. They depended on me. And my sister and her conman boyfriend were threatening to take food off their tables just to fund their gambling habits. My phone rang. It was the front desk. Claire, your parents are here. Sarah's voice was tight, barely a whisper. I told them you were in a meeting, but they are walking back. I couldn't stop them. I hung up and stood just as my office door flew open. It slammed against the wall with a violence that made the glass rattle. My father Thomas marched in first, his face a mask of self-righteous fury. My mother Linda followed right behind him, clutching her purse like it contained the crown jewels. Everyone in the open plan office stopped working. The silence was instant and terrifying. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward my office. My parents didn't care. They didn't see my employees as people. They saw them as an audience for their performance. "You are a disgrace," my father boomed, his voice echoing off the high ceilings. "We raised you better than this." I stood behind my desk, using it as a barrier. "Hello, Dad." "Hello, Mom. Would you like to close the door so we can discuss this like adults?" "I will not close the door," my father shouted. "I want everyone here to know what kind of person they are working for. A thief, a liar, a woman who would steal from a baby." My mother stepped forward, her eyes scanning my office with a look of sneering judgment. "Look at this place," she spat. "You have all this. A corner office, employees, expensive furniture, and you begrudge your sister a roof over her head. You are greedy, Claire, just like Adam was." "Don't you talk about him?" I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous low. "You don't get to say his name." My father slammed his hand onto my desk, knocking over a cup of coffee. The brown liquid splashed across the papers I had been reviewing, ruining the sketches. "I will say whatever I want," he yelled. "Adam is dead. He can't protect you anymore, and clearly he left you with a cold heart. How can you sleep at night knowing your nephew is out there suffering while you sit in your ivory tower?" "He is not suffering, Dad," I said, trying to keep my composure. "He has a father. He has a home. Jessica is the one who gambled it away." "Lies," my mother shrieked. "Jessica told us everything. She told us how you hired some sleazy detective to dig up dirt on her, how you are trying to frame her. You are sick, Claire. You are jealous because she has a child and you don't. That is what this is about, isn't it? You want to punish her for being a mother." I looked at my staff. Sarah was standing up, looking ready to call security. Mark was recording on his phone. I felt a flush of humiliation heat my neck. This was my sanctuary. This was the place where I was respected, where I was competent. And my parents were reducing me to a petulant child in front of the people I led. "You need to leave," I said, pointing to the door. "Now. Or I am calling the police. Again." My father laughed, a harsh barking sound. "Go ahead. Call them. Let the world see you arrest your own parents. You think that will help your reputation? You think your clients want to hire a woman who throws her elderly parents in jail?" "I am not playing this game," I said, picking up my phone. My father lunged. He moved faster than I expected for a man his age. He reached across the desk and grabbed my wrist, wrenching the phone from my hand. He threw it against the wall where it shattered. "You listen to me," he snarled, leaning over the desk until I could smell the stale coffee on his breath. "You are going to sign that house over. You are going to release the funds, and you are going to do it today. Jessica called us crying this morning. She is terrified. She said you threatened her." "I threatened to tell the truth," I said, pulling my wrist back. It was throbbing. "If the truth scares her, that is not my problem." My mother walked around the desk. She got right in my face. "You are the embarrassment of this family," she hissed. "We should have focused on Jessica. We should have known you would turn out like this. Cold, unfeeling, just like your grandmother. You don't deserve the name Preston." I looked at her, really looked at her. I saw the lines of bitterness etched around her mouth. I saw the blindness in her eyes. She didn't see me. She never had. She only saw a resource she couldn't control. "You are right," I said softly. "I don't deserve this family. Nobody does." My father's face turned a shade of purple I had never seen before. He raised his hand. It happened in slow motion. I saw the movement. I could have ducked. I could have blocked it. Adam had taught me self-defense classes years ago just for fun. But I didn't move. I stood there, chin up, eyes open. The slap cracked through the office like a whip. It stung my cheek, radiating heat instantly. My head snapped to the side. The office gasped. Sarah screamed my name. I stood frozen, my hand going to my cheek. The skin was burning. I tasted blood where my tooth had cut my lip. My father stood there, breathing heavy, his hand still raised as if he might do it again. But then he looked around. He saw the faces of my employees. He saw Mark's phone pointed directly at him. He saw the shock and disgust on every single face in the room. He lowered his hand, but he didn't look sorry. He looked justified. "You made me do that," he said, his voice shaking. "You pushed me. You are the shame of this bloodline. Give your sister the money, or so help me God, I will ruin you." I looked at him. I looked at the man who had taught me to ride a bike, the man who had walked me down the aisle, and I felt the last tiny thread of attachment, the last microscopic hope that they might love me, snap. It was gone. I was free. And in that freedom I saw the opening. This was it. This was the moment. They were desperate. They were violent. They were irrational. If I fought back now, if I kicked them out, they would just keep escalating. They would come back with guns or fire. They wouldn't stop until they destroyed me or I destroyed them. So I had to lose. I had to let them think they had broken me. I let my shoulders slump. I let the tears that were stinging my eyes spill over. I made myself look small. "Okay," I whispered. My father blinked. "What?" "Okay," I repeated louder, my voice trembling. "You win. I can't do this anymore. I can't fight you. I can't have you coming here, destroying my business, hitting me. It's too much." My mother's face changed instantly. The anger vanished, replaced by a smug, triumphant smile. She reached out and touched my arm, the arm my father hadn't grabbed. "See," she said to him. She just needed a firm hand. She just needed to know we were serious. I stepped away from her touch, flinching as if I was terrified. "Just stop," I sobbed. "Please just stop hurting me. I will give her the house. I will give her whatever she wants. Just leave me alone." My father straightened his jacket, adjusting his tie. He looked around the room, daring anyone to challenge him. "That is all we wanted, Claire. Justice. Fairness. When can we sign?" "Not here," I said, wiping my eyes. "Not in front of my staff. I can't think straight." "Tonight then," my mother pressed. "We can come to the house tonight." "No," I said quickly. "Not tonight. I need to get the papers ready. I need to call the lawyer. I need to pack. If I am giving her the house, I need to get my things out." My father narrowed his eyes. "How long?" "Saturday," I said. "Saturday night. Give me 2 days. Please. Just let me say goodbye to my home. Let me pack Adam's things in peace." They exchanged a look. A greedy, calculating look. They were weighing the risk. But they saw a broken woman. They saw a daughter who had finally been put in her place. "Fine," my father said. "Saturday, 7 o'clock. But don't try anything, Claire. Don't try to move assets. Don't try to run. We will be watching. I won't run," I said, my voice defeated. "I have nowhere to go. You have taken everything." "Good," my mother said. "Bring the deed. And have a check ready for the cash balance. We want this over." "We will be there at 7, my father said. "And Claire, clean yourself up. You look like a mess." They turned and walked out. They walked out like royalty, leaving the scene of a conquest. They didn't look back at the chaos they had caused. They didn't apologize to my staff. They just left. As the door closed behind them, the office exploded into noise. Sarah rushed to my side, grabbing a first aid kit. Mark was calling building security. People were crying. "Claire." "Oh my God," Sarah said, dabbing at my lip. "I am calling the police. That was assault. We have it on video." Mark got it all. I held up my hand, stopping her. "No police, Sarah. Not yet." She looked at me confused. "But he hit you. He threatened you." "I know," I said. I stood up, straightening my blazer. I walked to the window and watched them get into their car in the parking lot below. They were high-fiving. They were celebrating. I turned back to my team. My face was stinging, my lip was bleeding, but my eyes were dry. The tears had stopped the moment the door closed. "Send that video to my personal email," I told Mark, "and Sarah, cancel my appointments for the rest of the week." "But Claire, you just agreed to give them the house," Sarah said, her voice frantic. "You can't do that. That is your home." I looked at her, and for the first time that morning, I smiled. It was a cold, sharp smile. A smile that made Sarah step back slightly. "I am not giving them the house, Sarah. I am inviting them to a funeral." She stared at me. "Whose funeral?" "Theirs," I said. I walked back to my desk and picked up the landline since my cell was in pieces. I dialed David's number. "David," I said when he picked up, "it is set. They took the bait. Saturday night, 7 o'clock. Make sure Jessica is there, and David, make sure she thinks she has won." I hung up. I touched my cheek. It would bruise. Good. Let it bruise. It would be a badge of honor. It would be the visual evidence of why I was about to do what I was about to do. They thought they had broken me. They thought the slap was the end of the argument. They didn't realize it was the starting gun. I sat down and pulled a fresh sheet of paper from my drawer. I began to write a list. Projector, speakers, security detail, champagne. If they wanted a signing ceremony, I would give them one. I would give them a night they would never forget. A night where every lie, every theft, every blow would be repaid with interest. Saturday night couldn't come fast enough. The 48 hours leading up to Saturday night were a study in human depravity. I sat in my temporary command center at the dining room table, surrounded by monitors and hard drives, watching my family self-destruct in high definition. Detective Cole had been busy. Not only had he bugged Jessica's car, but he had also managed to access the credit monitoring alerts for my parents and my sister. It turned out that when you link your financial destiny to a single payout, you stop worrying about credit limits. They were spending money they did not have on a future they would never see. It started on Friday morning. My mother, Linda, who had stood in my office crying poverty just 24 hours earlier, was spotted at the most expensive bridal boutique in Boston. She wasn't buying a wedding dress, she was buying a gala gown. A gold sequined monstrosity that cost $4,000. David sent me a text from the parking lot where he was forced to wait as their chauffeur. "She just put it on the visa," he wrote. "She told the salesgirl she is coming into a large inheritance this weekend. She is celebrating." I watched the text bubble on my screen and felt a cold pit in my stomach. Inheritance. They weren't even calling it a settlement or a gift anymore. They viewed Adam's death as a lottery win, and they had the winning ticket. An hour later, my father, Thomas, walked into a luxury car dealership. Cole's associate was tailing him and sent photos in real time. My father was test driving a brand new Escalade. He was laughing with the salesman, pointing at the leather interior, acting like a man without a care in the world. He put down a $500 non-refundable deposit to hold the vehicle until Monday. Monday. The day they thought the banks would clear my check. But the worst display was Jessica. She didn't just shop, she rampaged. She went to a high-end furniture store in the design district. I knew the owner. She had been a vendor of mine for years. I called her under the guise of checking on an order. "Hey, Claire," the owner said, her voice hushed. "Your sister is in here. She is picking out furniture for your house." My hand tightened on the phone. What is she buying? Everything. She is pointing at the Italian leather sectional, the marble dining table, the nursery set. She keeps saying she needs to purge the bad energy from the place. She told my floor manager that the current decor is depressing and sterile. She wants it all delivered next week. She tried to put it on your account, Claire, but I told her I needed your authorization. She threw a fit and maxed out 3 different credit cards to pay the deposit. "Let her," I said, my voice ice cold. "Let her buy it all. Do not give her a discount." I hung up and looked at the live feed from the camera Cole had installed overlooking my driveway. The house stood silent and majestic, unaware that its invaders were already measuring the drapes. They were erasing me. They were erasing Adam. They were treating our life together like a tear-down project ready to be bulldozed for their tacky, overpriced vision. But the real smoking gun, the weapon that would ensure they never recovered, came later that afternoon. Jessica was driving David's truck because her car had been repossessed weeks ago, something she had hidden from the family. She was alone driving to meet Gavin Miller for what I assumed was a strategy session or a celebration. She didn't know that Detective Cole had slipped a high-fidelity listening device under the dashboard the night before while David distracted her. I sat with Cole in his van parked 3 streets away listening to the audio feed. The quality was crystal clear. We heard the engine start the radio blast for a second before she turned it down and the sound of a number being dialed. The phone rang over the car's Bluetooth speakers. "Hey, baby," a man's voice answered. Slick, confident. "Gavin." "Gavin, you should see them," Jessica said, her voice high with adrenaline. "They are spending like drunken sailors. Mom bought a dress that cost more than my car. Dad is looking at boats. It is hilarious." "Are they leaving enough for my fee?" Gavin asked. "Relax," Jessica laughed. "The house alone is 800,000, plus the cash accounts, plus the jewelry." Claire folded so fast, Gavin. It was pathetic. I thought she would put up a fight, but Dad slapped her once and she crumbled. She is weak. She always has been. I listened to my own sister call me weak while driving the truck her husband paid for to meet the man she was cheating on him with. I didn't feel weak. I felt like a hunter waiting in the blind. "And David," Gavin asked, "is the idiot still buying it?" Jessica snorted. "Oh my God, yes. It is almost sad. He is walking around like a kicked puppy. I told him I did it for us, for our family. I told him Adam seduced me. He believes every word. He actually apologized to me, Gavin. He apologized for not being able to give me a baby. Can you believe that?" I looked at Cole. His jaw was tight. Even a hardened detective was disgusted by this. "He has no idea about the vasectomy, right?" Gavin asked. "Clueless," Jessica said. "And Claire doesn't know either. Or if she does, she is too scared to use it. That fake will, though. That was your masterpiece, babe. The way you traced the signature from that old birthday card she posted on Facebook, genius. Even I almost believed it." I leaned forward, staring at the speaker. There it was, the confession. "It was not my best work," Gavin said, sounding smug. "The font was a little off. I should have used a serif. But hey, it got the job done. Photoshop is a wonderful thing." "It sure is," Jessica agreed. "And the best part is once I get the deed signed on Saturday, I am dumping David. I will tell him the stress is too much. I will take the kid, take the house, and then you and I can finally be together properly, no more sneaking around." "What about the gambling debt?" Gavin asked, his voice turning serious. "Vinny is calling me Jess. He is getting impatient. I will pay him Monday," Jessica said dismissively. "Once the house is in my name, I can take out a bridge loan. Or I can just sell Adam's watch collection. Claire kept all of it. That has to be worth 50 grand right there. Vinny will get his money, and then we are going to Cabo, first class." The call ended with the sound of a kiss blown into the receiver. I sat back in the van, the silence ringing in my ears. I had it all: the forgery, the affair, the gambling debt, the premeditated plan to divorce David and steal my home. It was all recorded in her own voice, arrogant and laughing. Cole reached over and stopped the recording. He ejected the digital drive and handed it to me. "That is a felony," he said. "Conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, grand larceny. You have enough to put them both away for 10 years. I took the drive. It felt heavy in my hand, hot to the touch. "And the best part," Cole added, "is that she thinks she has won. She has no idea what is coming." "No," I said, "she doesn't." I went back inside and called David. He answered on the first ring, his voice hushed. "She is home," he whispered. "She is in the shower singing. She is so happy, Claire. It is making me sick. Did she buy anything I asked?" David sighed. "The back of the truck is full of bags, designer clothes, shoes. She said she needed to look the part of a homeowner. She used my emergency credit card, Claire, the one I keep for supplies. She maxed it out, Let her, I said. Let her dig the hole deeper. David, did you get the results? Yes, he said. The email came an hour ago. And? I heard him take a shaky breath. It is a match. 99.9%. Leo is mine. I closed my eyes for a second, feeling a wave of relief for him. Good. Now you know. Now you know what you are fighting for. I know, he said, his voice hardening. I listened to her on the phone earlier, Claire. I was in the garage, but the vents carry sound. She was talking to him. That lawyer guy. She called me an idiot. She said she was going to leave me as soon as the ink was dry. She did, I confirmed. I have it recorded too. David was silent for a moment. I loved her, Claire. I really did. I worked 2 jobs for her. I took care of her. Why wasn't that enough? Because she is a black hole, David. You can never fill a black hole. You just get sucked in until you disappear. But you are not disappearing. Not tonight. Tonight, he agreed. 7 o'clock. Tonight. I hung up and walked into the living room. It was transformed. The chairs were arranged. The projector was warmed up, displaying a blue screen that illuminated the dust motes dancing in the air. The bottle of champagne sat in a silver bucket, the ice slowly melting. I picked up the deed transfer document from the table. It was the only thing I had printed that wasn't evidence. It was a standard quitclaim deed transferring ownership of 422 Maple Drive from Claire Preston to... It was blank. I took a pen and wrote in the grantee section. But I didn't write Jessica's name. I wrote, the Adam Preston Charitable Trust. I wasn't giving her the house. I wasn't keeping it either. This house was tainted now. It was the scene of the crime. It was the bait for the trap. I would donate it. I would turn it into something good, something that would help people who had actually suffered, not people who created suffering for sport. I looked at the clock. 6:30. I went to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. My hands were steady. My heart was slow and rhythmic. I felt like a surgeon scrubbing in for a complex operation. I knew exactly where to cut. I knew exactly how to extract the tumor that was killing my family. The doorbell rang. It was early. I walked to the door and checked the peephole. It wasn't my family. It was Vinnie Moretti's heavy, a man the size of a refrigerator wearing a tracksuit. I opened the door, leaving the chain on. "Can I help you? You Claire Preston?" he asked, his voice like gravel. "Yes. Jessica said you are paying her debt tonight. She said to come here at 7:30. She said you would have the cash." I looked at him. Jessica had invited her loan shark to my house. She was so confident, so arrogant, that she had invited the mob to collect their winnings at my expense. "She will be here," I said, "and she will have something for you. But it won't be cash." The man frowned. "What is it then?" "A surprise," I said. "Park down the street, watch the house. When the police cars show up, that is your cue that she isn't paying." The man stared at me for a long beat. Then he nodded slowly. "You got guts, lady." He turned and walked away. I closed the door. She had brought everyone. The cast was complete. The stage was set. 10 minutes later, the headlights swept across my living room window. They were here. I walked to the center of the room and stood in front of the blank projector screen. I smoothed my white dress. I checked my reflection in the mirror one last time. The doorknob turned. I had unlocked it. I wanted them to walk in freely. I wanted them to feel welcome. My father entered first, carrying a bottle of scotch. My mother followed, holding a bouquet of flowers that looked like they were bought at a gas station. Jessica and Gavin came in next, holding hands, laughing. And David brought up the rear, his face a mask of stone. "Claire!" my father boomed, spreading his arms wide. "We are here. Let's get this over with so we can celebrate." I smiled, a genuine, terrifying smile. "Yes, Dad," I said. "Let's celebrate. Please take your seats. The show is about to begin." The digital clock on my laptop dashboard flickered to 3 in the afternoon on Saturday. 4 hours until the guests arrived. 4 hours until the curtain rose on the final act. I was pacing the length of my living room, adjusting the angle of the projector screen for the 10th time when my phone rang. It was David. I picked up immediately, expecting a status update or perhaps a question about the script we had rehearsed. Instead, I heard a sound that chilled my blood. It was the sound of a man hyperventilating, a ragged, wet, gasping for air that sounded like he was drowning on dry land. "David," I said, gripping the phone. "David, are you okay? I am going to kill her." His voice was a guttural growl, unrecognizable as the gentle man I knew. It was the voice of a wounded animal cornered and lashing out. "David, where are you?" "I am in the truck. I am in the driveway." "She is inside, Claire. She is inside, singing to the radio. She is packing boxes for the move." "I am going to go in there, and I am going to wrap my hands around her throat, and I am not going to let go until she stops lying." "David, stop!" I shouted into the phone. "Do not get out of the truck. Do not go inside. Talk to me. Did you get the email?" "I got it," he choked out. "I got the results, Claire. 99.9%. He is mine. Leo is my son." I closed my eyes, exhaling a breath I felt like I had been holding for days. We knew it. We suspected it. But hearing it confirmed was a seismic shift. The biology was irrefutable. Jessica hadn't just stolen an inheritance, she had stolen a father's reality. She watched me cry. David said, his voice breaking into a sob that was terrifying in its raw intensity. 2 years ago, when she told me I was sterile, I sat on the bathroom floor and wept. I told her I was sorry. I told her I felt like less than a man. And she hugged me. She stroked my hair and told me it didn't matter. She looked me in the eye while I was breaking apart, and she acted like a saint for staying with a broken man. But I wasn't broken, Claire. She was. "I know, David," I said, keeping my voice low and steady, trying to be the anchor in his storm. "She is a monster, we know this." "No. She let me believe my son was another man's bastard," he continued, the rage rising again, drowning out the sorrow. "She let me look at Leo every day and wonder if I was just the babysitter. She used my love for him against me. She used it to make me go along with this heist. She told me if I didn't help her get your house, she would take Leo away, and I would have no rights because I wasn't his dad. She held my own son hostage, Claire." I heard the sound of a car door opening. The chime of the door ajar alarm pinged in the background. "David, stay in the truck," I ordered. "I can't," he said. "I can't let her breathe another minute of freedom. I need her to know that I know. I need to see the fear in her eyes when I tell her she didn't win. I am going in." "No, you are not," I screamed. "Listen to me, David. If you go in there now, you lose. You go in there and you hurt her and you go to prison. You go to prison and Leo goes into the system. Is that what you want? Do you want Leo to be raised by strangers because his father lost his temper?" The silence on the line was heavy. I could hear his breathing, harsh and ragged. "She deserves it," he whispered. "She deserves worse," I agreed. "She deserves to be stripped of everything, her reputation, her freedom, her pride. But if you give her a black eye, she becomes the victim. She spins the story. She tells the police you are an abusive husband who snapped. She uses that to bury the fraud accusation. She wins, David. If you touch her, she wins." I heard him slam the steering wheel. The horn blared for a second, a sharp burst of sound that made me jump. "Then what do I do?" he yelled. "I am sitting here shaking, Claire. I can't look at her face without wanting to destroy it." "You drive away," I said. "Put the truck in reverse and drive away. Come to me. Come to my house. We need to prepare." "I can't face her tonight," he said. "I can't sit at a dinner table and eat with her knowing what I know." "You have to," I said, my voice hard. "You have to be an actor, David, just for 3 hours. Think of it as a job. Think of it as the most important job you have ever done. You are doing this for Leo. You are doing this to ensure that the woman who treated him like a pawn never gets to control him again." I heard the engine turn over. The sound of the truck backing out of the driveway was the sweetest thing I had heard all day. "I am coming," he said. "I will be there in 20 minutes. Good. Bring the results. Bring everything." I hung up and slumped against the wall, my knees weak. That was close. Too close. If he had gone inside, if he had confronted her, the element of surprise would be gone. Jessica was a cockroach. If you turned the lights on too early, she would scatter. She would hide the money, destroy the text, come up with a new lie. I needed her pinned down under the microscope of public scrutiny. 20 minutes later, David walked through my back door. He looked like a man who had walked through a war zone. His eyes were bloodshot, his face pale beneath the stubble, his hands trembling as he laid a crumpled stack of papers on my kitchen island. "Here," he said, pushing the papers toward me. "The lab report. It is official." I picked it up. It was a standard DNA paternity test result. Probability of paternity 99.99%. Combined paternity index 345,000 to 1. The numbers were stark cold, undeniable. I looked at him. "How are you holding up?" He walked to the sink and splashed cold water on his face. "I feel sick," he said, dripping water onto the counter. "I feel like the last 3 years of my life were a hallucination. Every memory I have with her, it is all tainted. Every time she said 'I love you,' she was laughing at me. Every time she said, 'We will get through this,' she was plotting how to use me." "She is a sociopath, David," I said, pouring him a glass of water. "She doesn't feel love the way we do. She feels ownership, she feels utility, feels you were useful to her, Leo was useful to her, I was useful to her, and when we stopped being useful or when she needed more, she turned on us." He took the glass but didn't drink, he just stared into the water. "She told me Adam seduced her," he said quietly. "She made up this whole story about how lonely he was, how he cried in her arms. She desecrated his memory, Claire. She took a dead man, a good man, and turned him into a cheater just to cover her tracks." I felt the familiar spike of rage at the mention of Adam, but I pushed it down. I needed to be the general now, not the grieving widow. "And tonight we clear his name," I said. "Tonight we give Adam his dignity back. And we give you your son." David looked up, his eyes hardening. "How does this work, Claire? Walk me through it again. Because if I am going to sit in a room with her and not strangle her, I need to know exactly how she goes down. I need to see the end game." I pulled out the chair next to him. "Okay, here's the script. They arrive at 7. You walk in behind them. You keep your mouth shut. You let her talk. You let her brag. You let her think she is the Queen of England coming to collect her taxes." "And then," David asked. "And then I start the presentation," I said. "I show the medical records first. Adam's vasectomy. That proves Leo isn't his. That knocks the legs out from under her claim on the house." "She will panic," David said. "She will say the records are fake. She will say Adam reversed it. She will say anything." "Exactly," I said. "She will scramble. She will lie. And that is when you stand up. That is your cue. When she starts screaming that Adam is the father, that is when you throw this on the table." I tapped the DNA results. "You throw this down and you say, 'No, he isn't.'" "I am." "And you tell her exactly how you know. You tell her you swabbed Leo's cheek while she was picking out curtains for a house she will never own. You tell her you know about the fake fertility diagnosis. You tell her you know everything." David nodded slowly, visualizing it. I watched his hands clench into fists, then relax. "And the lawyer?" he asked. "That Gavin guy. Cole is bringing a surprise for him," I said, a grim smile touching my lips. "Gavin has a warrant out in New Jersey for passing bad checks." Cole tipped off the local PD. "They are going to have a cruiser waiting down the block. When the shouting starts, they come in." "So she goes to jail," David said. "For forgery. For fraud. For attempted larceny." "Yes," I said. "She goes to jail, and you file for emergency custody of Leo tonight. With her in cuffs and the evidence of her instability and gambling addiction, no judge in the world will give her that boy. You get him, David. You get your son, free and clear." David took a deep, shuddering breath. He looked at the medical papers, then at me. "You saved me, Claire," he said. "If you hadn't come to the diner, If you hadn't showed me the truth, I would have signed those papers. I would have let her destroy us both. We saved each other, I said. Adam saved us. He left the breadcrumbs. We just followed them. David stood up. He walked over to the window and looked out at the driveway where he would soon be parking his truck alongside his wife's stolen future. I have to go back, he said. I have to go pick them up. She wants to make an entrance. She wants us all to arrive together like a happy, victorious family. Can you do it? I asked. Can you drive her here without crashing the car into a wall? David turned back to me. His face was set like stone. The grief was gone, replaced by a cold, hard resolve that matched my own. I can do it, he said. I will drive her here. I will open her door. I will carry her bags. I will be the perfect husband. Because I want to be there when the floor drops out. I want to see the look on her face when she realizes she is the one who is sterile. Sterile of love. Sterile of truth. Sterile of anything worth having. He walked to the door. 7 o'clock Claire. 7 o'clock David. He left. I locked the door behind him and went back to my preparations. I checked the projector. I checked the sound system. I checked the bottle of champagne chilling in the bucket. I picked up the picture of Adam from my desk. I ran my thumb over his smiling face. You were right, I whispered to him. She is a viper. But you forgot one thing, Adam. You married a mongoose. I put the picture down. I was ready. The evidence was loaded. The trap was primed, and the executioner was driving the getaway car. All I had to do was open the door. The clock on the mantel struck 7 with a precision that felt like a judge's gavel. My living room was a scene of manufactured celebration. My parents, Linda and Thomas, sat on the velvet sofa sipping from the crystal flutes I had laid out, their faces flushed with the thrill of victory. Jessica sat in the armchair nearest to me, her legs crossed, her posture radiating the arrogance of a queen who had just conquered a new territory. Next to her, Gavin Miller, the fake lawyer, lounged with a casual disrespect that made my skin crawl. And in the corner, shadowed and silent, sat David. He hadn't touched his drink. His hands were clasped between his knees, his eyes fixed on the floor. To anyone else, he looked like a defeated man, but I saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his knuckles were white. He was a coiled spring waiting for the release. So, Claire, my father said, his voice booming with forced joviality. Shall we get to it? No need to drag this out. We have dinner reservations at 8 to celebrate. Celebrate. I repeated, my voice flat. Yes. Let's not keep you from your victory lap. Jessica leaned forward, sliding a document across the coffee table toward me. It was the quitclaim deed, the one I had printed earlier. Next to it, she placed a heavy, expensive pen. Sign right there, sis, she said, pointing to the signature line with a manicured nail. And don't worry about the moving trucks. I have already scheduled them for Monday morning. You can take your personal items, but the furniture stays. It fits the house better than it fits you anyway. I picked up the pen. The metal was cool against my skin. I looked at the document. It was the physical manifestation of their greed, their entitlement, their complete lack of empathy. They were throwing me out of my own home less than a week after my husband died, and they were smiling about it. I looked up at Jessica. You really think you have won, don't you? She laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. I don't think, Claire. I know. You have no husband. You have no children. You have no fight left in you. You are just a sad, lonely woman in a big, empty house. And Leo? Leo is the future. Adam wanted him to have this. You are just doing what your husband would have wanted. Adam, I said softly, testing the name on my tongue. You keep talking about what Adam wanted. You seem so sure. I am sure, Jessica said, her eyes narrowing slightly. He loved me, Claire. In a way, he never loved you. He gave me a son. That is a bond you can never understand. David made a noise in the corner, a sharp intake of breath. Jessica shot him a warning glare. Quiet, David. Let the adults handle this. I stood up. I walked over to the side table where my laptop was connected to the projector. You know, Jessica, I said, my hand hovering over the keyboard. Adam was a very meticulous man. He kept records of everything. Every client, every case, every dollar. And apparently every secret. What are you talking about? My mother asked, her brow furrowing. Just sign the papers, Claire. Stop stalling. I am not stalling, Mom, I said. I am just reminiscing. I hit the space bar. The projector hummed to life, flooding the room with light. A giant image appeared on the white screen I had set up. It wasn't a picture of Adam. It wasn't a picture of Leo. It was a video. A grainy black and white video taken from a high angle. It showed two people sitting in a car. The timestamp in the corner read 2 days ago. The room went deadly silent. On the screen, Jessica was laughing. She was leaning over the center console, kissing the man next to her. The man was Gavin Miller. I watched Gavin's face in real time. The smug smile vanished, replaced by a look of sheer terror. He sat up straight, his eyes darting to the door. Jessica stared at the screen, her mouth opening and closing soundlessly. The audio kicked in, crystal clear. That fake will, though. That was your masterpiece, babe. The way you traced the signature from that old birthday card she posted on Facebook, genius. My father gasped. My mother dropped her champagne flute. It shattered on the hardwood floor, but no one moved. It was not my best work, Gavin's voice boomed through the speakers. The font was a little off. I should have used a serif. But hey, it got the job done. Photoshop is a wonderful thing. It sure is, Jessica's voice agreed. And the best part is, once I get the deed signed on Saturday, I am dumping David. I will tell him the stress is too much. I will take the kid, take the house, and then you and I can finally be together properly. David stood up then. He stood up slowly, unfolding his height until he loomed over the room. He walked toward the screen, his eyes fixed on the image of his wife, planning to destroy him. Jessica finally found her voice. It was a high, thin shriek. That is fake. That is AI. She made it up. It is not fake, Jessica, I said, my voice cutting through her panic. It is surveillance footage from the private investigator I hired when you started this war. You spied on me, she screamed, standing up and pointing a shaking finger at me. That is illegal. So is forgery, I countered. So is fraud. So is grand larceny. I clicked the remote. The image changed. Now the screen showed a document, a medical report, Massachusetts General Hospital, patient Adam Preston. Procedure vasectomy. Adam couldn't have children, Jessica, I said, looking her dead in the eye. He had a vasectomy 5 years ago, 3 years before Leo was born. He was sterile, biologically sterile. My mother let out a wail, a sound of pure anguish. No, that is not true. He is Adam's son. He looks just like him. He looks like David, I said, because he is David's son. I looked at David. It was time. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the crumpled paper. He walked over to the coffee table and slammed it down on top of the deed. Read it, he said, his voice shaking with rage. Read it, Jessica. Jessica looked down. She saw the DNA test results. She saw the probability of paternity. 99.99%. She looked up at him, her face pale as a sheet. David, I can explain. Explain what? David roared. Explain how you let me think I was broken for 2 years. Explain how you let me cry myself to sleep thinking I couldn't be a father. Explain how you planned to steal my son and run away with him. He pointed a trembling finger at Gavin with that piece of trash. Gavin scrambled backward, his chair tipping over. Hey man, look, I didn't know. I was just... Shut up, David yelled. You shut your mouth. My father stood up, his face red. Now see here, David, calm down. We can figure this out. Figure what out? David turned on him. Your daughter is a criminal. She tried to steal a house. She tried to steal my son. And you helped her. You cheered her on. We didn't know, my mother sobbed. We thought, we thought it was Adam's. You didn't care whose it was, I said, stepping forward. You just wanted the money. You wanted the house. You wanted to erase me because I didn't give you a grandchild. You didn't care about the truth. You just cared about the payout. Jessica was backing away now, moving toward the door. I have to go. I feel sick. I have to go. You are not going anywhere, I said. I nodded to the window. Outside, the red and blue lights of police cruisers flashed silently, illuminating the driveway. I called them 10 minutes ago, I said. They have been listening. They heard the recording. They heard the confession. Jessica's knees gave out. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. Not the fake, pretty crying she did for the cameras. Ugly, guttural, terrified crying. Gavin bolted. He ran for the back door, scrambling over the furniture. But he didn't make it. The back door opened, and 2 uniformed officers stepped in, blocking his path. Gavin Miller, one officer said. You are under arrest for fraud, forgery, and outstanding warrants in New Jersey. They cuffed him right there on my Persian rug. He screamed and kicked, begging Jessica to tell them it was all her idea. Jessica just sat there weeping, rocking back and forth. I needed the money, she moaned. Vinny was going to hurt me. I needed the money. And you were willing to destroy your sister, your husband, and your son to get it, I said, standing over her. You were willing to burn us all down to save yourself. The officers walked over to her. Jessica Preston, one said, pulling her up. You are under arrest. As they dragged her out, she looked back at me. Her eyes were wild, full of hate and fear. Help me, Claire, she screamed. Please, I am your sister. Tell them it was a joke. Tell them I didn't mean it. I looked at her. I looked at the sister who had tormented me my whole life. The sister who had tried to steal my home, my memories, my dignity. I don't have a sister, I said. My sister died the day she decided to rob a widow. They took her out. The room was suddenly quiet, except for my mother's sobbing. My parents sat on the sofa, huddled together, looking old and small. They had lost everything. Their golden child was a criminal. Their reputation was ruined. Their greed had been exposed for the world to see. David stood in the center of the room, holding the DNA test. He looked at me. Thank you, he whispered. Go get your son, I said gently. He is waiting for his dad. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. He walked out the front door, past the police cars, past the ruin of our family, to go claim the only thing that mattered. I turned to my parents. Get out, I said. My father looked up. Claire, please. Where will we go? I don't care, I said. Go to a hotel. Go to a shelter. Just get out of my house. And don't ever come back. They stood up, shaky and frail. They walked to the door, passing the screen where the video of Jessica's betrayal was frozen on a loop. As they stepped out into the night, I closed the door. I locked the deadbolt. I slid the chain into place. I was alone in the quiet house. But for the first time in a week, it didn't feel empty. It felt clean. It felt safe. I walked over to the table and picked up the deed. I ripped it in half, then in half again. I threw the pieces into the air like confetti. It was over. The checkmate was complete. And the widow was the last one standing. The room was so quiet I could hear the hum of the projector fans spinning against the heat of the bulb. The audio of Jessica's confession had faded, leaving a heavy, suffocating silence in its wake. Gavin was gripping the armrests of his chair, his knuckles white, his eyes darting around the room like a rat looking for a sewer grate. Jessica was frozen, her face a mask of shock, her mouth slightly open as if she had forgotten how to breathe. I didn't give them time to recover. I didn't give them a moment to spin a new lie or come up with an excuse. I pressed the arrow key on my laptop. The screen flickered and the image changed. It wasn't a static document this time, it was a video. High-definition, crystal-clear video shot through the window of a coffee shop. That is the Bean Hive, my mother whispered, her voice trembling. It was a cafe 3 blocks from her house, a place we had gone to 1,000 times. On the screen, Jessica and Gavin were sitting at a small round table. They were huddled over a silver laptop. The camera zoomed in. The resolution was incredible thanks to the telephoto lens Detective Cole had used. We could see the screen of their computer. They had a document open in Photoshop. Beside the computer on the table lay a greeting card. It was a blue card with a picture of a sailboat on it. My father made a strangled noise in his throat. I recognized that card. I gave that to Adam for his birthday 4 years ago. It has been on the mantel. Yes, Dad, I said, my voice cutting through the room. You kept it on the mantel, and Jessica stole it. Watch. On the video, Gavin was using a stylus to trace the signature from the card. He was dragging it onto a digital document. He was manipulating it, stretching it, tilting it. Turn the volume up, I said. The audio from the directional microphone filled the room. Make it look shaky. Gavin's voice said, tinny but distinct. He was dying, right? He wouldn't have a steady hand. Make the A trail off at the end. Jessica laughed on the video. It was a cruel, calculating sound. Like this, she asked, adjusting something on the screen. Perfect, Gavin said. That looks pathetic. It looks real. Now change the date. Make it 3 days before he died. I watched my parents' faces as they watched their daughter, their golden child, manufacture a forgery to steal from a widow. My mother put her hand over her mouth. My father looked like he was going to be sick. That is not just a lie, I said, pointing at the screen. That is a crime. You aren't just a bad sister, Jessica. You are a felon. You sat in a coffee shop and laughed while you desecrated my husband's signature. You used a birthday card meant for love to commit larceny. Jessica stood up, her chair scraping violently against the floor. Stop it! She screamed, her hands flying up to cover her ears. Turn it off. It is fake. You made it with AI. You are framing me. I am not framing you, I said calmly. I am exposing you, and I am not done. I clicked the remote again. The video vanished. The screen went black for a second, and then a document appeared. It was stark white with a blue header. Massachusetts General Hospital, Department of Urology. I walked over to the screen, standing next to the projected image, so there could be no mistake. I wanted them to read every word. You claimed Adam slept with you 2 years ago, I said, looking at Jessica. You claimed he got you pregnant in a hotel room while I was working. You claimed Leo is his son. He is his son. Jessica yelled, desperate now, frantic. He has his eyes. He has his spirit. You can't prove he isn't. Read the document, Jessica. I said, my voice dropping an octave. Read the date. The date was highlighted in yellow. October 12th, 2019. 5 years ago. I turned to my parents. Adam and I wanted children more than anything. You know that. We tried for years. We spent thousands on IVF. We cried over negative tests. But what you don't know is why we stopped. I took a deep breath. Adam carried a genetic marker for Huntington's disease. His father died of it. He lived in fear his whole life that he would pass that suffering on to a child. He refused to take that risk. He loved his unborn children too much to curse them. My mother looked up, her eyes wide and wet. Huntington's, she whispered. He never told us. He didn't want your pity, I said. And he didn't want your judgment. So 5 years ago, Adam made a choice. He went to Mass General and he had a vasectomy. I pointed to the procedure line on the screen. Vasectomy, completed, successful. I clicked the remote one more time. A second document appeared next to the first. It was a follow-up lab report dated 6 months later. Diagnosis azoospermia, 0 sperm count. I turned back to Jessica. Adam was sterile, Jessica. Biologically, physically sterile. He couldn't get anyone pregnant. Not me, not you, not anyone. He hasn't been able to have children for 5 years. The room seemed to tilt. The air was sucked out of the space. The lie, the massive foundational lie that Jessica had built her entire scheme on, collapsed in an instant. Leo is 1 year old, I said, my voice ringing with finality. He was conceived 2 years ago, 3 years after Adam's surgery. I walked toward her, stepping into her personal space. Adam is not the father. He cannot be the father. It is medically impossible. Jessica's face went from red to a terrifying shade of gray. Her eyes darted back and forth, searching for an escape, searching for a new lie, but there was nowhere to go. The science was on the wall in 10-foot-high letters. "You are lying," she stammered, but her voice lacked any power. "You forged those records. You paid the doctor. You hated that I gave him a son, so you made this up." I laughed. It was a cold, dry sound. "I paid the doctor, Massachusetts General Hospital. You think I bribed one of the most prestigious hospitals in the country to fake a medical history going back 5 years just to spite you? You are delusional, Jessica." My mother made a sound like a wounded animal. She stood up, her legs shaking. "Is this true?" she asked, looking at the screen. "Did Adam... was he really—" "He was," I said. "He protected me, Mom. He protected us from this exact moment. He knew Jessica was obsessed. He knew she was capable of anything, so he kept the records. He left them for me in a safety deposit box with a note that said 'open in case of Jessica.'" My mother looked at Jessica. She looked at the daughter she had championed, the daughter she had defended, the daughter she had helped try to break into my home. "You lied," she whispered. "You told us he came to you. You told us he wanted this baby." "I didn't lie," Jessica shrieked. Maybe the surgery didn't work. It happens. Vasectomies fail. It was a miracle, Mom. Adam said it was a miracle." "Stop it," I shouted. "Just stop. There was no miracle. There was no affair. There was no secret love. There was just you gambling away your life and needing a payout." I pointed at Gavin, who was trying to sink into the upholstery of the armchair. "And you needed him to help you steal it. You needed a fake lawyer to push a fake will for a fake heir." My father stood up then. He looked older than I had ever seen him. He looked at the screen, reading the medical report over and over again, as if hoping the words would change. "You swore on your life, Thomas," my father said to Jessica. "You looked me in the eye and swore Adam was the father. You told me my friend, my son-in-law, was a cheater. You made me hate him. You made me dishonor his memory." Jessica backed away, knocking into a side table. A lamp wobbled and fell crashing to the floor. "He was a cheater," she yelled. He looked at me. "Everyone looks at me. I am the pretty one. I am the one men want. Why wouldn't he want me?" "Because he had honor," I said. "And because he saw you for what you are. A parasite." My mother let out a sharp gasp, clutching her chest. Her face went slack and her eyes rolled back. She crumpled. It wasn't a graceful movie faint. She dropped like a stone, her knees hitting the floor first, then her torso collapsing sideways. "Linda," my father shouted, rushing to her side. He fell to his knees, patting her face. "Linda, breathe." "Oh God." Panic erupted. Gavin stood up, looking like he was about to bolt. Jessica stood frozen, staring at her mother on the floor, not moving a muscle to help her. "She is faking it," Jessica sneered, her voice trembling. "She just doesn't want to deal with this." "Get up, Mom. Stop being dramatic." "She is not faking it, you witch," I yelled, rushing over. I checked my mother's pulse. It was racing but strong. She was breathing shallowly. It was a stress response. Her reality had just shattered, and her brain had pulled the emergency cord. "Get some water," I ordered Gavin. He didn't move. He just stared at the door. "Water," I screamed. He scrambled to the kitchen. My father was weeping now, holding my mother's hand. "I am sorry," he was muttering to her unconscious form. "I am so sorry, Linda. We didn't know. We didn't know." I looked up at Jessica. She wasn't looking at our mother. She was looking at the screen again, at the medical report. Her mind was working furiously, trying to find a crack, trying to find a way out. "It is a mistake," she muttered. "It has to be. The test was wrong. Or maybe he froze sperm. Yes, that is it. He froze sperm before the surgery and I found it. I used it." "You used it," I repeated, standing up and leaving my mother to my father. "You broke into a cryobank and stole sperm and inseminated yourself without anyone knowing." "Is that the new story, Jessica? Because that is even crazier than the affair." She glared at me, her eyes filled with hate. "You will never prove he isn't the father. Never. You can have all the papers you want, but until you test Leo, you have nothing. And I will never let you touch him. I will never let you near my son." I smiled. It was the smile of the executioner raising the axe. "I don't need your permission, Jessica." She laughed a high hysterical sound. "He is a minor. I am his mother. You can't test him without my consent. You are stuck, Claire. You are stuck with your doubt." I didn't answer her. I turned my head slowly toward the corner of the room, toward the shadow where David had been sitting silent and still as a statue throughout the entire presentation. "David," I said softly. He stood up. He stepped out of the shadows into the light of the projector. He was holding a piece of paper in his hand. Jessica turned. She looked at her husband. She looked at the man she had called useless, the man she had cheated on, the man she had lied to every day for 3 years. "David," she said, her voice faltering. "David, baby, don't listen to her. She is jealous. She is trying to tear us apart." David didn't say a word. He walked past her. He walked right up to the coffee table where the fake deed and the fake will lay. He placed the paper he was holding on top of them. Then he looked at her. His eyes were dry. His face was calm. It was the calm of a man who has nothing left to lose. I looked at the paper. It was the DNA test. Jessica looked at it too. She read the header. She read the name. Leo Preston Miller. And she read the result. Her knees buckled. She didn't faint like our mother. She just sank down until she was sitting on the floor, amidst the broken glass of the lamp, her expensive black dress pooling around her like oil. "No," she whispered. "No, she." "No." "Yes," I said. The room was silent again, save for my father's quiet sobbing over my mother. The truth was out. The lies were dead. And now it was time for the punishment. The room had the airless quality of a tomb. Jessica sat on the floor, her designer dress pooling around her like a mourning shroud, clutching the medical records as if they could somehow rewrite history. Her denial was a palpable force in the room, a desperate wall she had erected against the crushing weight of reality. David looked down at her. His face was a mask of sorrow that had hardened into something brittle and dangerous. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the folded DNA results. He didn't speak. He just let the paper fall. It fluttered through the air, landing softly on Jessica's lap, right on top of Adam's medical file. Jessica stared at it. She didn't want to touch it. Touching it would make it real. "Read it," David said, his voice low and vibrating with suppressed rage. She didn't move. "Read it!" he roared, the sound exploding in the quiet room, making everyone jump. Jessica flinched. Her hand trembled as she picked up the paper. Her eyes scanned the page. I watched her face as the words registered. Probability of paternity. 99.99%. She looked up at David, her eyes wide and wet. "David, You told me I was broken," he said, his voice cracking. "You told me I wasn't a man. You let me believe I couldn't give you a family. You watched me cry, Jessica. You watched me beg for forgiveness for something I didn't even do." "I did it for us," she whispered. "I did it so we could have a better life." "A better life." David laughed, a harsh barking sound that held no humor. "By stealing from your sister, by dishonoring a dead man, by making our son a pawn in a felony, you call that better?" He took a step toward her. "You dragged our son into this. You put his name on a fake will. You were going to let him grow up thinking his father was a man he never met, just so you could pay off your gambling debts. Jessica scrambled backward, crab walking across the rug until her back hit the sofa. How did you know about the debts? We know everything David said. We know about the $80,000. We know about the loans. We know about him. He pointed a finger at Gavin, who was still trying to make himself invisible in the armchair. Gavin flinched. Hey man, look, this is a misunderstanding. I was just giving legal advice. Legal advice, David spat. You aren't a lawyer. You are a con man, and you are sleeping with my wife. The air went out of the room. My mother, who had been groaning softly on the floor, went silent. My father looked from Gavin to Jessica, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. You knew, Jessica whispered, looking at David with horror. You knew, and you still came here. You still pretended. I wanted to see you do it, David said, his voice dropping to a whisper. I wanted to see you lie to my face one last time. I wanted to see if there was anything left of the woman I married, any shred of decency. He shook his head, tears finally spilling over. But there is nothing. You are hollow, Jessica. You are empty inside. Jessica's face twisted. The fear vanished, replaced by a sudden vicious anger. The cornered animal was biting back. You are pathetic, she spat, scrambling to her feet. You are a weak, useless man, David. That is why I did it. Because you could never give me what I needed. You work your little blue-collar job, and you come home tired, and you think that is enough. It is not enough. I deserve more. I deserve a life. I deserve him. She gestured to Gavin. He is a winner. He takes what he wants. He doesn't ask for permission. A winner? David laughed. He is a disbarred paralegal with a warrant in New Jersey. He is a loser, Jessica, just like you. Jessica screamed a high, primal sound of rage. She launched herself at David, her nails aiming for his face. David didn't even flinch. He caught her wrists in mid-air, stopping her cold. He held her there, her arms straining against his grip, her face inches from his. Don't, he said, his voice deadly calm. Don't you ever touch me again. He shoved her back, not hard enough to hurt her, but hard enough to send her stumbling into Gavin. Gavin caught her, his face pale. He looked at David, then at the door. He was calculating the odds of making a run for it. I think we should go, he said, his voice shaking. Jessica, come on. He grabbed her arm, trying to pull her toward the hallway. Oh no, you don't, David said, stepping in front of them. You aren't going anywhere. Not until you answer for this. He lunged. It happened so fast. David's fist connected with Gavin's jaw with a sickening crunch. Gavin's head snapped back and he went down like a sack of potatoes, crashing into the side table and sending the lamp flying. Jessica screamed. She threw herself onto David, clawing at his back, pounding her fists against his shoulders. Get off him, she yelled. You are crazy. I moved then. I crossed the room in 3 strides. I grabbed Jessica by the back of her dress and hauled her off David. She spun around, her eyes wild, her nails raking across my arm. Let go of me, she shrieked. I didn't let go. I pinned her arms to her sides, using the leverage Adam had taught me. Stay down, Jessica, I hissed. It is over. Gavin was groaning on the floor, blood trickling from his lip. David stood over him, breathing hard, his fists still clenched. Suddenly the room was flooded with red and blue light. The sirens wailed outside, cutting through the chaos like a knife. The front door burst open. Police, everyone stay where you are, a voice boomed. 4 officers swarmed into the room, guns drawn. Police, David shouted, raising his hands immediately. Don't shoot. I let go of Jessica and stepped back, raising my hands as well. She stood there, chest heaving, looking from the police to me to Gavin on the floor. Officers, secure the room, the lead officer barked. 2 officers moved toward Gavin, hauling him up from the floor. He didn't fight. He just sagged in their grip, looking defeated. Gavin Miller, the officer said, cuffing his hands behind his back. You are under arrest for fraud, forgery, and outstanding warrants in the state of New Jersey. You have the right to remain silent. Another officer approached Jessica. Jessica Preston, he said. She backed away, shaking her head. No. No, I didn't do anything. It was him. She pointed at Gavin. He made me do it. He tricked me. The officer didn't pause. He grabbed her wrist and spun her around, snapping the cuffs on. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, and attempted grand larceny. No, Jessica screamed, thrashing in his grip. Mom, Dad, help me. Tell them I am a good person. My parents sat on the sofa, frozen. My mother was sobbing quietly into her hands. My father looked at his daughter in handcuffs, and then he looked away. He couldn't meet her eyes. Help me, she wailed as they dragged her toward the door. David, please. Leo needs me. David looked at her. His face was stone. Leo needs a father, he said. And he has one. They took her out. Her screams echoed down the hallway, fading into the night as the heavy front door slammed shut. The room was suddenly quiet. The only sound was my mother's weeping and the heavy breathing of the remaining officers. One officer approached me. Mrs. Preston, he asked. Yes, I said, lowering my hands. We will need a statement from you and Mr. Miller. Of course, I said. He looked at David. And you, sir? Were you involved in the altercation? David looked at his bruised knuckles. I hit him, he said. I shouldn't have. But he was leaving. The officer looked at Gavin's bloody lip, then at David. I didn't see anything, he said quietly. Just make sure you get some ice on that hand. David nodded. Thank you. The police left, taking the chaos with them. I looked around my living room. It was a wreck. Furniture, overturned glass on the floor, the projector screen crooked. But it felt cleaner than it had in days. The poison was gone. My parents stood up slowly. They looked like ghosts. We should go, my father said, his voice hollow. Yes, I said. You should. My mother looked at me, her eyes red and swollen. Claire, she whispered. We didn't know. We really didn't know. I looked at her. I saw the woman who had raised me, who had taught me to tie my shoes, who had baked me birthday cakes. But I also saw the woman who had tried to break into my house, who had called me selfish for grieving, who had chosen a lie over her own daughter. It doesn't matter what you knew, Mom, I said. It matters what you did. You chose money over me. You chose a fantasy over the truth. And you lost. She flinched as if I had slapped her. We just wanted the family to be whole again, she said. The family was never whole, I said. It was just painted gold. And the paint chipped. Go, I said, pointing to the door. They walked out. They walked out into the night, past the police cars that were taking their other daughter to jail. They walked out of my life. I turned to David. He was standing by the window, watching the taillights fade. You okay? I asked. He looked at me. No, he said. I am not okay. My wife is in jail. My marriage is a lie. My life is a mess. But I smiled. But you have your son, I said. He nodded, tears filling his eyes again. I have my son. Go get him, I said. He is waiting. David walked to the door. He paused with his hand on the knob. Claire, he said. Yeah. Thank you. For saving me. I didn't save you, David, I said. You saved yourself. You just needed a light to see the way. He opened the door and walked out. I locked it behind him. I slid the chain into place. I turned the deadbolt. I was alone. I walked to the center of the room. I looked at the screen, which was still projecting the medical report. Adam's name shone bright and clear. I reached out and touched the screen, tracing the letters. We did it, Adam, I whispered. We got them. I turned off the projector. The room plunged into darkness. But for the first time in a week, I wasn't afraid of the dark. I wasn't afraid of the silence. I walked to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of wine. I walked out onto the back porch. The air was cool and crisp. The stars were bright. I took a sip of wine. It tasted like victory. It was over. The checkmate was complete, and the widow was the last one standing. The story of Claire and the betrayal she faced teaches us a profound and difficult lesson. Family is defined by loyalty, not biology. We are often conditioned to believe that we must endure toxicity, disrespect, and manipulation simply because it comes from our blood relatives. We are told to keep the peace at the expense of our own dignity. However, Claire's journey reveals that true peace only comes when we refuse to be victims. Her parents and sister saw her grief not as a tragedy to be comforted, but as a vulnerability to be exploited. In stark contrast, Adam's love was so profound that it protected her even from beyond the grave. His meticulous preparation was the ultimate testament to his character, proving that real love is about safety foresight and ensuring the well-being of your partner no matter what. It reminds us that we must protect ourselves even from those who claim to love us. Moreover, this narrative highlights that the truth is a patient hunter. Jessica built her life on a foundation of lies, lying to David about his fertility, lying about her son's parentage, and lying about her own victimhood. She mistook silence for weakness and kindness for stupidity. But when decent people are pushed too far, they will fight back with the most powerful weapon available: the truth. Walking away from toxic family members isn't an act of cruelty. It is an act of survival. You are never required to set yourself on fire just to keep others warm. If this story of justice and resilience resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your own experiences with setting boundaries in the comments below. Your story might be the strength someone else needs today.